Well, hello everybody, my soul friends out there joining me again for another video. This is Victoria on the Soul Nurturer channel. I stopped calling myself or saying Victoria the Soul Nurturer channel because I hope to expand this channel as I am today by inviting in guest speakers who are also resonant with soul potential. And I have a guest on today that I'm going to introduce in just a moment. You might recognize her. She's been on before. But today's topic I'm calling Purge to Emerge. And it is the season, isn't it? Springtime to do the spring cleaning. But as a hypnotherapist and a soul guide, I have a little bit of a different take on it. And I'm inviting my friend, I'm going to introduce her now, Julia Anderson, to join me in this conversation because she is an expert declutterer. And
Mm.
and she's also an amazing fitness coach, motivational coach, nutrition coach. I mean, she's a Jackie of all trades. She's got you covered. So
Right?
welcome, Julia. I'm so excited you said yes to coming on again.
Mm.
You were the one I had to turn to. You're my go-to person for this type of work. So I'm excited to have you here again today.
Absolutely, always. I
Yeah.
feel such honor and blessings, but we've just like you said, finding the flow, and then it's just been magical to allow our schedules to align and make it
Yes,
work.
indeed, because we're
So,
both pretty busy. And when I called, I
yeah.
just the other day texted Julie. I said, I have this idea. It feels like the time we've got to talk about this. Are you available? And she was available. And I was like, okay, meant to be. So
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about today, as you know, like because you help a lot of people with the physical clutter. And I've seen some of your posts, so you go in there with like gangbusters and just help them get out of their way, right? Well,
Yeah.
so for me, like right now, astrologically, we've talked about this and that we're in a rare event. Not only is it springtime where it's the natural time to spring clean, we have, the fiery Aries helping us have more energy and motivation, but we have a very rare 2 new moons in Aries, right? So the new moon in Aries, the first one started off spring season, the spring equinox. And then as we move through the lunation cycle, now we're just on the eve of the full moon in Libra. And full moons can draw forward everything. I mean, it's like we can't escape what we need to see. So sometimes we need to see all the clutter in our lives, not only externally, but in our minds and in our bodies. It's a perfect time for a cleanse. But Julie and I are going to talk about, I'm going to talk about the decluttering of the mind. She's going to talk about decluttering our spaces. And full moons, so I always say, full moons are a beautiful thing, but they can be an emotional thing because we can't escape ourselves. And so it's a time to be gentle and graceful when you notice, oh, I really haven't taken care of that. I haven't resolved that. And this is the time to say, okay, purge to emerge, clear everything that's in your way, so that you can move to the new moon, the new moon at the very end of the Aries season, a second Aries new moon, which is a new beginning to say, this is a real fresh start. If you clear what's in the way of your way, it's a true fresh start. Right, Julia?
Yeah.
So
So much.
are
Really
you
agree.
noticing more people inspired right now to call you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And for longer periods of time of like really ready to make a big shift in
Ah,
getting that stuff out of the way and then figuring out the system so that they can be doing it on their own.
yes.
Yeah.
I love that. And I did want to talk to you about sustainability because that's where I wanted to, I was thinking about and researching this more. Do you have a lot of repeat clients who come back and like maybe you help them declutter and then a few months later they're like, oh, Julie, I'm back into that same place. Do you have that experience with your clients?
I do with some.
Some. Mhm.
And I find too that like they get inspired by different rooms or different ideas. They're evolving in their world as they're starting to take care of some of this. Now they're like, I'm inspired to get a workout space, um, or their health is starting to really take the forefront. So now they're like, can you help me in my kitchen?
Yes, I
Uh,
love it.
so the steps in between are key because if I just come in and help them get rid of things, it's not helping them actually do it on their own and figure out ways to stick with it.
So what are some of the steps?
Well, honestly, depending on how you're utilizing me as a service, I'll just use a client right now. We've done some purging together where I've actually helped her in a physical aspect. And now she's at a place where she's getting ready to retire. And so almost like this empty nesting, if you will, where she doesn't have anyone in the home, but she's now at home even more and trying to decide what is it that I want to be doing with in my life. She's very motivated. She's really great at being accountable to herself, but also knows she needs that reminder to come back to it, someone else to just keep that fire going.
Yes.
And so we're just doing some accountability calls. We're looking at like, what do you want to be doing this week? Where have you had a win? What's been feeling like an emotional leak? And then what do you need support with?
Ooh, I
So I'm
love it.
doing some of the virtual stuff like
Yes.
that, but I'm also helping people figure out, okay, let's figure out a weekly plan where you tap back in. Oh, the living room's getting a little messy. How do we look at setting either a Sunday reset or even a 15-minute at the end of the day where you just swipe through, setting timers, no more than 15 minutes.
Yeah, I love that. What was the one about emotional something? What did you say? Was it?
I don't know. We'll have to
Oh,
listen
I
to the
thought you
recording.
said there was something about an emotional connection. Do you find there's an emotional connection?
Oh,
Okay, because that's what I want to dive
absolutely.
into.
Oh, yes. That is the big key for a lot
Yes.
of people, is what is getting in the way. If they don't have the motivation to look at their space, maybe it's they had to do some tedious thing as a kid that they didn't love doing, so there wasn't finding the fun in it, or what I like to say is kind of peeling it back until you will say yes.
Ah,
We have a tendency to look at the big huge picture and all the overwhelm and maybe the steps that need to make it happen versus just one step.
yes, I love that. Okay, great that we are on the same page, sister. So when I think about decluttering the mind, so our external worlds can mirror,
Yes.
what's going on in our inner environment. If we've got a lot of inner clutter, we're going to have a lot of external clutter. I took a deep dive after asking you to do this with me. And because I wanted to talk about people who say I have physical limitations or chronic pain. I'm somebody who has experienced chronic pain. And when you experience chronic pain, you really monitor how much you can do in a day. And so doing a big task like decluttering your house can be overwhelming. But I also found a correlation to trauma. I thought that was
Yes.
really interesting. Like that, clutter can be, well, it's a mental health, it can be a mental health issue, but trauma really was interesting to me because, well, the prefrontal cortex, our executive action, where we make our executive actions of logic, decision making, and willpower, is offline. And our amygdala, like the fire detector, the smoke alarm, is constantly kind of going off. So we don't really have the spaciousness to go, oh, I know what I need to do. I can focus in on that, right? And
Yes.
that's where someone like you can help, right alongside of them, next to them, and help them kind of be that executive decision maker to help them until they can regulate their bodies, their minds, and come into that space. But I also was thinking that as within, so without. So if we've had, this is as a hypnotherapist, I work with a lot of associations and familiarity. If you grew up in a chaotic environment, like I'm going to be really honest.
Good.
You're going to be my accountability person, because if I scanned
Okay.
you
Love
with
it.
my camera right now, you'd be helping me out. But I noticed this the other day. Well, we all have the junk drawer, right? Most people have, and I want to ask what the hell
And
that.
I have to say something about that too. I
Okay.
stopped calling it a junk drawer. I
Okay.
call it a miscellaneous jar.
Beautiful. Excellent.
Just that shift in the words helps actually just feel like it's not junk
Okay.
because
Miscellaneous.
it's stuff that you need. Yeah.
Okay. But why do we all have one? What is that about? It's such a really.
It doesn't have a home yet.
Okay,
Right.
good one. Those miscellaneous items do not have a home yet. Excellent. Okay. But here's the thing. Now, my mom passed away when I was young, and she was kind of checked out because my dad died at 9. She was kind of checked out around the same time. But my top drawer, my delicate drawer,
I love it.
I thought the other day, it reminds me of when I was a kid opening my mom's drawers to look what was in her her, what were my mom's things when she'd be at work, whatever. And I was like, whoa, I've replicated what I remember that my mom did in my, like over cluttered and too much stuff. And I just had this flashback of remembering my mom's drawer. And so there's a familiarity of what we've learned from our family of origin, but there's also the energetic or emotional familiarity. So say we lived in a chaotic house, we can replicate chaos with clutter. Do you find that to be
Absolutely.
true?
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting because these last few months, I have been working with more clients that have had health stuff, mobility, where they're just can't get to the items.
Yeah.
And also a lot of items. And so really it's how teaching them to not make messes as they organize. So this is another thing too, when people get ready to do something, they want to take everything out of the drawer and they're like, I'm so ready to purge that whole drawer.
Yeah.
But then the energy
Mhm.
is just so much that then they slow down, take a break, and then they don't go back to the mess. And now that it's there, there's just way overwhelming. So in that aspect, teaching them a particular style that wasn't necessarily my style either, but as I've become more minimal and started following more of those mentors around that, they've taught this style of really, when you pick up something, like for an example, that miscellaneous drawer, or let's say I have a place for my little light, but if I didn't, it might go in a miscellaneous drawer. And so if I pick it up and say, okay, this doesn't have a home, but I'd like for it to have a home. Where would I like it to be? And then take this one item and put it where I want it. Now, if there isn't space for it there, then I will look at what's there and say, is there one item that I could take out and either choose to purge, get rid of, toss, or take somewhere else and then put that one there. And that's the process. It's just like kind of one item at a time, which feels very tedious. But those types of people need simplified, big picture versus a whole system inside system. That's where again they get stuck.
I like that one item at a time. To be truthful, the Marie Kondo, is that how you say her name?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think I read or watched something where you just dump everything on the floor, and to me that was overwhelming. I'm like, I know
it works for some, but not all.
that was just like, and so again, there I was already experiencing overwhelm inside of me, and I don't want to create more overwhelm. I want to create simplicity. And so I like that, that one step at a time, doable, actionable. And I know that's your method. I love that. And I wanted to say there was something else that popped in my mind about that. Just finding the way. Oh, you're that series that you've studied and been trained in, like the Clutter bug, is it?
Yeah, because like you had said, Marie Kondo might be the system for some. There's 4 in regards to my mentor that I studied with. I'm looking to kind of tweak it because now that I've worked with more people, there's a little bit of hybrid in there. And just to speak briefly on that, there's ladybugs, which tend to be like a bug, they're beautiful. And once you open up those wings, it's kind of a hot mess in there. You open up a closet and like, there isn't a lot of systems behind the closed doors, but they don't like to see a lot of stuff. Like it overstimulates them to see a lot of their items.
It's like they stash their items so you don't see it. Okay.
Yes. Now they still get their systems inside them, but for the beginning, it's like big picture. Let's macro organize a space. This all goes in the kitchen. This goes in that room, kind of type thing. And then there's the butterfly, and they like to see everything. They tend to be ones that collect a lot of items, and the best systems for them are hooks and open shelvings, because if things are tucked, they forget and they'll go and buy again, or they won't have a home for items. They tend to be those people that don't really particularly have set spaces and homes for things.
Okay.
And they are also macro organizers. Then there's bee and then cricket. Bees and crickets both like systems inside systems.
Mhm.
Bees, however, like to see their items.
Hmm.
So they like clear, subdivided. They can put stuff behind drawers, but they got to see it all when they open it up. It
Okay.
can't be in something that's, you know, dark and closed. And
Interesting.
then crickets, they are also micro organizers, systems inside systems. They like, you know, to open a drawer and file everything, put it in where exactly goes.
Uh-huh.
But they also, because they might not prioritize the time, then they'll pile stuff until later. So there's this kind of
Ooh.
nemesis inside being super organized that then creates this kind of chaos.
Yes. Is there a way to do that test, or is it something you?
Yeah, I can send it to you,
Oh,
or you can even
put it in
just
the
Google
description.
clutter bug quiz,
Okay.
and you'll find out what your style. One thing I do recommend to people that take the quiz is really sit with what you're doing right now, because you may aspire to be a certain way, but if it's
Right.
not your style right now, it really won't support you, because then you're going to be trying to do something that you're not doing yet.
Yes.
And if you get the right now system figured out, then it will help you go next level if you're wanting to.
Well, you know,
But
that's
really
the
not.
truth. That is the absolute truth about every assessment thing. Like, you know, when especially I do the Enneagram and
Yes.
there are and Myers-Briggs. And so people, when you
Yeah.
do the assessment test, you tend to shoot for the potential of you rather than
Yeah.
what you're really doing, to be honest, because we need to be honest with where we are to get
Oh,
where we want to go. Right.
yeah. And I think if you keep in mind that actually it hinders you to
Mhm.
do that, then to where you really are, like there's no judgment of where you are. It's going to help you figure out and kind of have those, oh, that's why I do that. Okay. Well, you know, that's great. I don't have to be like this. That is, I think, the other thing that people struggle with organization, because a lot of the systems that are out there to buy are for bees and crickets, those people that really like systems inside systems. And so
Ah,
the butterflies and the ladybugs, they kind of feel like, organization just isn't for me. I'm lazy, or I just don't go the extra mile. And that's not true at all. They just need big picture
yes.
so they don't get overwhelmed.
I love that. And it's really important. Yes, you're not lazy. You just have a different style.
Yes. And you
Beautiful.
have to stick to that style so that it works. And they are beautiful organs. I actually feel like ladybugs, you know, they'll open up a drawer, they'll pull out things where sometimes, you know, these other systems won't. They're like, I need it really super simple. I need no lids, all of that goodness. Just throw it and toss it.
Yeah. This is good. I love it. Okay, so finding your system, and I want to say that we weave these two, uncluttering our minds and uncluttering our external homes,
Oh yeah.
inner
It takes
home. For me, number one, acceptance, right? Accepting where you
huge.
are, no judgment, no shame, because the shame can create more of a separation from, like, say, calling someone like you to get help, or
Yes.
just starting where you are can feel overwhelming. So acceptance
It's
and
really
will.
vulnerable.
What's that?
It's very vulnerable to have someone come into your home
Yeah.
and see where you feel like you aren't showing up.
Yeah, it's very vulnerable to let someone in your mind too. And
Yes.
I really, I'm really honored by the people who trust me to open the window to their mind and soul so I can see where they can be stuck. And it is helpful to have that loving external mirror to say, I got you. I see it's in it, and to have someone like you to say, it's not as hard and difficult as you think it is. So I think, also with trauma, there's a trauma that, or people who are stuck or hoarders, there's a lot of emotional, psychological elements going on. There's a scarcity mind. There's you're going to disorder my disorder that keeps me safe, which can feel like, how could that be? This is disorder, but it's comfortable, it's familiar, and it's their safety zone. And if we're going to disrupt that, then they need some inner support to know that it's safe to do this. And for safe, acceptance, and worthiness, which factors in everything.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
worthiness, right?
And if they don't have that work internally, like you're talking about, they'll just go ahead and fill those spaces again.
Yes. And, I found this piece of worthiness in many areas of my work, but I remember speaking with a client so many years ago about, not cleaning your house. And I have to be honest, I fall into this what I'm going to describe. I can just talk about myself. I said to her, and I say to myself, what if somebody was coming over to your house? Right. And that
Yep.
motivation that comes in and kicks in when we have a guest coming over.
Yes.
And
That's
so when there's a disconnect, we're saying the other person is more worthy than ourselves living in our space, right?
true.
That there was a great book years ago called If the Buddha Came to Dinner.
Oh,
And
I love it.
it's such a great book. And I think she did one about house decluttering, but this one was about food and what you would eat. If the Buddha or Jesus came to dinner, you would just whatever, and you tidy your house because the divine was coming to dinner or to your home, and to recognize the divine is in your home. And so is your inner child. And it's an opportunity to rewrite your story that you grew up as a child in the home you live in, inner and outer. It's
Nice book. I need to look
powerful.
into that.
It's an old one. It's probably 20 years ago, but it's a good one. So, what else did I want to talk to you about? I'm going to share my acronym with you because I think we could bounce off of this.
Oh yeah.
You know that I love to play with acronyms.
I do. I love it. You always got some great ones.
It expands our concepts. It helps us go, okay, I can wrap my mind around that. And I always invite people to come up with their own acronyms for whatever you're up to. So in this case, for me, I'm saying purge the stuff in your mind, and we're talking about the physical stuff, but here's my acronym. And the way that it came, I was like, well, this isn't a clear acronym, but it's kind of top heavy in the way our clutter is. So stuff. I am not going to put it on the screen because my struggle with that. So stuff, S, stuck, stagnant, suppressing. This is the stuff that's it's keeping us stuck, it's stagnating us, and it's suppressing us. T and stuck is things, thoughts, and tendencies, which is our patterns or behaviors, the things we do every day that keep us in a stuck place. This is when we start transitioning to solution. You says it's undermining us. All this stuck, stagnant, suppressed energy, our things, our thoughts, our tendencies that don't support us are undermining. And my F's are freedom and flow.
Oh, so good.
Isn't that good? Okay, this is my early morning drop-in downloads. I'm like, oh, I like that. And I was trying to whittle them down to just one word. Actually, Ben was like, shouldn't it just be one word? But I'm like, no, it's the heaviness of the experience, being stuck under your stuff, the stagnation, the stuckness, the suppression,
overwhelm,
anxiety,
the pressure.
Yeah. And so do you identify like that? Like what is the desired outcome for like emotionally, like, and I mentioned freedom.
Yes.
Probably a big word.
Yes. But, and I'm always asking people like the next day as they step into the space, how does it feel in your body? What are you experiencing? Like getting them to go back into that space so that they're, feeling it in their cells, and that helps them with that motivation. And I think that that's a huge key. I believe that is a huge key around helping them stay motivated.
Yeah.
On their own.
Right. To keep it going, and again, I would add in to know they're worthy of that and that it's safe. Yes. Again, anytime we alter an inner pattern and an external pattern, it takes a while to let the subconscious mind in on that. I'm approving this. I authorize it. It's safe now to do this. It's safe to be this. It's safe to emerge to what I want in my life. So that's really, really key. So what are some beliefs that you really, or what would you like to empower in terms of beliefs towards decluttering?
I love that because that is a big key. And we talked a little bit about, those past beliefs and what gets stuck around just even words around cleaning. And I think that when you let go of something, it's not necessarily saying goodbye. You said something in your video about when we are stuck in the past, we're not really allowing us to move forward. Those aren't the words. I love what you said. I didn't write it down. Can you requote it?
I think I was saying that when you hold on to things because it reminds you of who you were, you're blocking the potential and the flow of who you're trying to become.
Yes.
Yes. And so for me, that is, the Marie Kondo is, does it spark joy? Lots of things spark joy for me. I'd hold on to
Yeah.
everything. I'm a
I
joyful
know.
person. So that doesn't really work for me. But is this representing who I used to be and blocking who I want to become?
That's so good.
It
Yes.
works for me. It's like, yeah, no, and I can always hold the memory. I don't need to hold the thing to have the memory of who I was. But if it's blocking who I want to become, then it's got to go.
See, that's fantastic, because that's where a lot of people get stuck, is in the memories.
Mm.
And that's why I speak to that one specifically, because you're saying, I don't need this to have that memory. But there are a lot of people that feel like once they let go of that thing, they will no longer have the memory.
Yeah. Yes.
And so I love what that saying. I think that will help a lot of people. I think I'm gonna also say that with them.
Yes.
Is it blocking who you want to be? Because that's a big part that when people really struggle, and it tends to be the butterflies, is almost like closing their eyes, putting the item behind them.
Okay.
And really saying, now, if you had seen that, if you hadn't seen that, could you move forward without it?
Right. And then there's a tricky part though, and I see this a lot with women. And I have to say, I shed a lot of clothes the other day, and I was holding on to some pants that I used to fit in.
Yes.
Like,
Motivation.
oh no, I'm going to fit in there someday. Well, when I do,
Yes.
I'll go get a new pair of pants. I don't need to hold on to these. So that's a hard one, because it's really accepting. It's a hard acceptance of, I do not fit in these clothes right now. It doesn't mean I won't, but it means I can get some later. And so for me, what I was feeling into is there is a piece of scarcity thinking.
Yes.
If I don't keep these pants, I won't have the pants to fit in when I'm back to that size. Like, I can't afford to go get a new pair of pants later.
That's
Right?
key.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and then you can celebrate in it, right? Like, it's an experience. You're going somewhere. You're actually trying these on. It's just the whole feeling of it versus just pulling another pair out of your closet.
Oh, I
that
like
you already had.
Yes, I love that.
So,
those are mine too. And I suspect a lot of, for women, I wonder, letting go of clothes is a hard one for me. And I live in a small place, so I'm constantly in letting go of things, but clothes and my books. Books are hard.
Yes.
But
yes, they are. Yep.
much
Absolutely.
with Kindle and Audible. But yeah,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like going to a thrift store or even Goodwill. That's new. It does, there's good stuff. It doesn't have to be going to a brand new like jean store. Like, I never buy new jeans.
Yeah,
it's way too expensive.
I love
the time that goes into them. But yes, I mean, just finding that whole experience. Clothes are a big one for a lot of people. And so finding ways to recycle your stuff. Even if it has given you a lot of love, again, if it's not moving you forward, even hanging on to those items that you're like, this is my inspirational jeans or shirt or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're giving in to the weight that you are or how you're feeling in your clothes or whatever. But yeah, finding something that will allow for more space.
You just gave me something so big just hearing you say it that way, because clothes, the attachment is to the identity we've created with the clothes, with the things. And the real healing and transformation is claiming who you are on the inside so profoundly, so powerfully, that these are just bonus. It's like we don't need the thing to be the person. We are the being.
Yeah.
Right. And there's some freedom in that. When you said spaciousness, the spaciousness to be your soul essence. You're not the things, you are who you are. And there's freedom in that. I got chills on that. That's
yes, I'm feeling that too. There's this sense of like, I'm continuing to evolve and I'm tapping into me and what I want to be, and that whole acceptance of not necessarily like I want something less for myself, but I am evolving to something more. So I'm going to let go of that piece, because I didn't have what I am right now in this evolution of growth. And now I'm going to claim something new and different.
I love it. You know, I right after this, I'm going to post about, I found a bunch of great quotes, including yours that I got from you
Oh,
yesterday. Um, what was yours?
we're
I love this. This is the one I selected. Use organization to fuel the life of your dreams by Julie Anderson. I love that. Again, it's like the way you're speaking to this, and like I like to say, is it for you or against you? This decluttering, organization, we might have some associations to, oh, I don't like it. You know, maybe you were forced to clean, maybe you were forced to organize and you didn't like when you were a child. But this is something for us. It moves us in the direction of a life that we want to live in that is supportive to who we want to become. But I loved this quote. I don't know who this person is, but Jules Renard. But this is speaking about, you know, nature. If we follow our soul nature, then it is easier to be in our human nature. So, but this is, oh, old rubbish, old letters, old clothes, old objects that one does not want to throw away. How well nature has understood that every year she must change her leaves, her flowers, her fruit, and her vegetables and make manure out of the mementos of the year.
So good.
Right? It's like,
It's so,
yes, nature teaches us it is about letting go and to become, right? And to trust
yeah.
that.
And even into like, why do we even spring clean of, like seeing more light,
Mhm.
having that time change, that really goes back to when we were heating with wood stoves and lanterns. And so there's like all this dust and soot. And so as the light comes in, it's like this, you can see it all, like the full moon, right? Illuminates it all. And you're like, oh God, I gotta clean that cobweb, get that glass clean so I can see through it.
That is so good. I never put that together. That's really
Oh,
makes so much sense.
yeah.
We can
So
see the mess we've been living in.
yeah. And yet
Yeah.
having that time for rest, right? I
Mhm.
love that really truly in our Northwest here, we have all the seasons. I'm
Absolutely.
finding more and more that I'm like, no, let's just be so present in spring. Yeah, we had snow the other day. But you know what? I'm glad that we just have a little touch of it and then it's
Yeah.
gone. And
Boy,
then the sun comes out.
when the sun, I love that so much. And again, I'm gonna pair that with, you know, the inner spring cleaning.
Hmm.
When that light of transformation comes, when we have that light bulb moment, I can do better. I'm worth more. And then that motivation comes from inside to, yeah, to purge so we can emerge. I was thinking in terms of like, you know, springtime when the seeds are in the soil and they emerge through the soil, they have to displace all that extra stuff they doesn't need anymore, that soil, so it can
Yeah.
grow to its potential.
Yep.
But that's genius. I love origin
Oh,
stories. Like, why do
right.
the spring clean? And it's
Yeah.
also astrological. Aries, we have more energy, but the returning of the light as well. I love it. All right.
Good.
Well, I just want to get a couple of your tips. Somebody
Okay.
sitting at home watching this right now, just give them a few tips to just, I'd love to just start where you are and just do the
Yeah.
small tasks. Um,
Yeah.
how would you like to inspire them today?
Well, I can think of two things, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. I said two things because one of them is really truly, if it takes you 2 minutes to do it, that's kind of my tagline. 2 minutes to do it, then just do it.
Yeah.
Really take that moment to go. You're right. It can take me just 2 minutes. It's probably a lot of times even less than 2 minutes.
Mhm.
But if it is less than 2 minutes, just take the time to actually do it. Start to implement. Oh, is this going to take me 2 minutes? Okay, I'm going to do this. Instead of putting my coat on the back of the chair, I'm going to actually go put it in the closet.
Nice.
You know, instead of leaving my keys maybe in my purse, I'm going to actually hang them where they go.
Yes.
Instead of leaving a mess, maybe I don't want to do the dishes. I will just put everything away
Mhm.
and then make sure my dishes are soaked and that they're stacked. That's the other thing that I like to do. If I'm not going to do dishes that day,
Mhm.
make sure they're stacked, it looks smaller, and then soak them. So it takes 2 minutes to do them later.
Yeah,
Um,
love that.
and then I would say the last one that really helps all organizing styles is if you're like not feeling it, then peel it back until you will say yes to it. Figure out some way that it feels easy or fun, and you'll actually say yes to it.
Hmm. Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
maybe if it is the dishes, that seems to be a real for people. It's like, oh man, doing my dishes. Then
Yeah.
just do one dish, you
Yes.
know? I think
Yes.
the thing for me right now is I love baths. And I was thinking of this yesterday. When I have my hands in the warm soap, it
Mhm.
makes me feel like I'm taking a bath. I don't have the option to take a bath right now.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, the goodness in this is my hands feel like they're in a bath. And then I can go there with my mind. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
this is what a bath would feel right now. So
Yes.
finding a way to get that fun in it,
Yes.
that might not be your way.
Well, I love what you're saying because what you're speaking to is key with the subconscious mind, finding a positive
Yes.
association. Because a lot of
Right.
times we'll resist what we need to do because we've got a lot of negative associations to it. So you got to hook into the positive association. This is warm, feels good, feels like bath. Also the end result, to focus
Yeah.
on the end result, what it'll look like, as you said, feel like is
Yeah.
really key. And I love the gentleness of what you're talking about. That's pretty much how I have to live because of my past experience with
Mhm.
physical pain and fatigue. What can I do? And I kept thinking of that old saying, how do you, and I don't want to even repeat it, but it was about an elephant. I'm like, oh, that's gross. And I don't want to, like,
Mhm.
how do you, whatever. So
Yes.
what's another metaphor? How do you read a book? You one page at a time. You open the
Yes.
book with willingness. You just do that one page. If you're motivated, you go to the second page and the next page. Maybe you get through a chapter, but as long as you open the book and you start right where you are, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome. Beautiful.
People have a tendency to say, oh, that's all you did. Or, oh, I had somebody the other day say, oh, well, why don't you walk all the way down? I'm like, hey, just getting down my driveway is enough for me right
Right. Do
now.
what you can do right where you are.
Yeah.
And this
I'm
is where
inspired
you're
to do that.
right. That inspired you. And that's for you. And this is where we have to put blinders on, not what other people are
Yes.
doing. It's what you are doing in your body, in your home, in your life. So this is great, Julia. Thank you. It was exactly what I hoped
Mm,
for. And I just want to say
thank
to
you.
everybody out there watching, you're worth this. Whatever step, whatever you can do, if you feel really stuck, reach for someone like Julia. If you're stuck in your home and you don't know how to declutter, she's wonderful. How can people reach you, by the way?
You can go to my website, Peak Consciousness. You could set up a call with me. I do free chats on how to, inspire you in your stuff.
And your stuff that your stagnant, stuck energy that you're gonna release so you can have
Yes,
freedom and flow.
freedom and flow.
Exactly. Beautiful. So that, yes, pick up, reach out to Julia, or if you're feeling stuck on your inner, reach out to me. Our information will
Mm,
be in the description. Mostly this is an offering to help you during this really potent time to take a step for you in your life, your inner home and your external world, to clear what's ever in the way of your way so you can reclaim your beautiful soul potential, nurture
mm.
it, and contribute what is yours and yours alone to contribute to this beautiful world we share. Thank you for being with us. Subscribe if you haven't, like and comment if you can. It helps get the videos out in the YouTube world. And thank you for your time. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Adios.